Yeah, and it's really interesting the way that Brendan's writing style for for the lyrics, because he's so kind of esoteric and it's
Uh-huh.
poetic. It's the way that that kind of interplays with the music and all the different directions that they can go with it has always been so kind of like intriguing to me and so cool because it just adds to that esoteric element of this. It's a complete work of art. Every one of their songs. It's really incredible. I love it.
It is time.
So, Ian, let's talk about Umphrey's McGee for a second. When was the first time that you heard of Umphrey's McGee?
I know that the answer to that specifically because so I have a live music venue in Champaign, Illinois, on the campus of the University of Illinois called the Canopy Club.
Uh huh.
And back in I want to say it was 99, might have been 2000, somewhere in there. One of our bartenders went to see Fish over at Deer Creek over in Indiana.
Uh huh.
And in the campground that night, playing on top of a trailer or a bus or something like that, was this band that she just fell in love with. And she came back to the club the next day raving about it and telling me I had to get them to play the Canopy. So, and she had went and talked to the band and gotten the contact info for their friend Vince Iwinski that was helping them out with that at the time as they were just getting started. They were still in school and everything. And we booked them to come over and play the Canopy Club. And I feel like there were maybe 50 or 60 people there the first time they came over.
Wow, nice.
And so, yeah, we've had a long storied tradition with them. The Canopy Club still holds the record for the most, the venue that they've played the most. I believe we're at 38 times that they've played the Canopy now. So, yeah, had a long, great tradition with them.
Yeah,
wonderful.
and that's one thing I really like about jam bands is like you can literally get stats like a fantasy football team and see like where and like how many times they played the song. Like you could probably look and see what songs they played the most of those 38 shows, which I think is so cool.
Yep, yep. And to kind of tie into their summer camp history, to make note, I unfortunately the Mo song that I had picked for us maybe to listen to got cut because of the length. But Umphrey's at the time were huge Mo fans. And I remember, like Brendan just being all excited the first time that they were going to be playing on summer camp and, talking to me about what big fans they were, because Mo started about 10 years before summer camp, or I'm sorry,
Right.
before Humphreys and stuff. And so, once we did start up summer camp with Mo, and the Humphreys guys at that time had relocated to Chicago and were just kind of blowing up, in the Midwest here quickly. So we quickly invited them to come on. I think it was 2003, which would have been our third summer camp, was the first time that they played at the event. But that relationship has blossomed into what is an amazing friendship, and it's so cool to see all the collab stuff and fun things that they've done together over the years.
Yeah, I really think it's cool that you're bringing these two bands, Mo and Umphreys, together every single year to do, give them a huge platform to explore. It's not just like, oh, they're playing Thursday night and like that's it. You're doing a really good job of giving these guys and the fans like, because I could look at any person on the summer camp lineup and there could be a potential collaboration somewhere, with Mo and Umphreys, which I think is just so interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really been great because the diversity of both bands just really allows us to broaden the spectrum of what summer camp is all about and not be as tightly defined as a lot of you've got your electronic festivals or you've got your
Right.
kind of more pop festivals and things like that. But I always say jam band fans have the biggest ears, and by that I mean, if it's good music, they're into it. So, when
Absolutely.
electronic started coming out and Bass Nectar was one of the first DJs that we put on because he was being booked and by Madison House, who also works with String Cheese and a lot of the other jam bands. And but we were like, okay, well, we'll experiment with this sound on the festival too, and the kids loved it. Everyone thought it was great, and so that then kind of went into us adding the vibe tent and doing more electronic, and then we had Skrillex in 2011, and of course he just blew up and kind of took the whole electronic scene with him. And so then that has now, of course, become a central part of the festival. But then we also do rock, we do country. We've had Zach Brown band, we've got Willie Nelson, and had Willie back in 2008. And so it's really, it's fun for me as the person buying the talent to have that ability to not feel like I'm constrained. We had Clutch as another kind of crazy example of even harder rock and that kind of thing, and the Smashing Pumpkins, and various different incarnations of rock. And then of course on the electronic side as well. So it's a lot of fun.
I've had a discussion with a lot of people about because I'm a jam band fan, of course, but I'm also into a bunch of other stuff like you're talking about, Smashing Pumpkins, also Clutch and things like that. And I was in a heavier band, and I remember having a discussion with the guys, and they're like, "Oh, you like jam band music, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been in a couple jam band music, bands, and I've been in heavier rock bands and kind of cover bands and stuff like that." I said, we would actually probably do pretty well at like a festival if they would let us in, because our music's good and it has that flow and rhythm to it, and it's a slightly little bit psychedelic, and it's a little bit this and that, and it's and they do. It's like jam band fans have the biggest ears and will listen to anything, give it a chance, and if it just connects with them, it connects with them. They're not just sitting there and I listen to nothing but that. They always listen to tons and tons and tons of different
like metal
music.
fans do that. Like if you go into someone's house who's a heavy metal fan and you look at the posters, it's not going to be nearly as varied as if you look at a jam band fan, because you could have like very heavy bands like Primus or something like that, right? And then you could also have like bluegrass, and you could look at that and be like, oh, that makes sense, somehow.
Like Motown and like jazz and
right,
just like so many different types of music. And I've always enjoyed that about the jam band crowd, and I think it's one of the things that really attracted me to it when I first started going to see shows back in the early 90s.
Yeah, and that's what I think about Umphrey's. They just have so many different genres in what they do. And so this song that we're about to listen to is like an absolute banger. I remember when the song first came out, I absolutely loved it. So can't wait to check this out. We're here with Ian Goldberg from Summer Camp Festival, listening to Umphrey's Mcgee from their 2004 album Anchor Drops. We're listening to Plunger on Galaxy Jams Reacts.
Just come right at you with it, right?
Oh, I know. And this is the first song on the album, I think.
Gravely now we stare at indecision.
Oh, this is dope.
Oh, yeah, they're so much fun.
Climbing stairs for sale is insufficient.
Definitely one of the things that caught my ear with them right away was, the odd time signatures and weird change ups and all the just prog rock, math rock stuff that they do just always blows my mind.
It's still contagious. We're capable of more. It's self-suspicion.
Kind of carnival-y.
It is.
Careful where you rest on spinning. Don't be fooled by you.
I'm literally getting goosebumps.
This is so interesting to them.
And after all the stains have settled, there's nowhere you're from.
This is really, really good, and I've listened to a lot of Umphrey's McGee. I never listened to this album. Okay, is this their first
you
album?
have to listen to Anchor
No,
Drops.
it's like their third or something.
Their
Or
third?
fourth.
You know, this I really, 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 really am digging this album, or at least the song. It reminds me of another band I can't place right now, but also right in the beginning, it reminded me of like 311, kind of in a very good way, kind of like more proggy and more experimental 311.
They used to be like a punk like rock band, you know,
Yeah.
before like Amber.
Oh my God, it's so interesting, you know, because y'all have been crash coursing me on Umphrey's for a while now, and
Mhm.
this one, you know, I was listening to it, and I was starting to think it sounds like the late '90s to me, and then I'm looking down at my notes, it's like, okay, yeah, so kind of in that window to me, like, you know, the kind of hard rock technical intro, the way the guitars are produced are very interesting. It sounds like that kind of like hard rock '90s, and then the vocals to me screamed like produced like Hoobastank, and like
Right.
and
There
like
you go. That's who I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
you know, like that it just screamed at me. I was like, it's clearly Umphrey's. There's this playfulness, this technicality, there's like this there's always this kind of springiness in the guitar that I pick up on and kind of listening to this band, but then it's like jammed through like the time period in a very satisfying way for me, and I'm really digging it. It's like a fresh listen for me.
Yeah. What I really like the most about Umphrey's McGee is that they got balls. And in a jam band world where, you know, things can tend to be like, you know, lovey-dovey, everything's great. The music can tend to be soft to cater towards people that are into that type of thing. But Umphrey's McGee, firmly in the jam band scene, just absolutely delivers the goods, you know, shredding guitars, you know, challenging riffs. It's something that I really always enjoyed about them, that they're not afraid to, you know, go hard, you know what I mean? Go big or go home.
Yeah, and it's really interesting the way that Brendan's writing style for the lyrics, because he's so kind of esoteric and you know it's poetic. It's, you know, it's not like directly telling the story of the girl you took out, you know, or whatever.
Right.
It's, you know, so, and the way that kind of interplays with the music and all the different directions that they can go with it has always been so kind of like intriguing to me and so cool, because it just adds to that esoteric element of this. It's a complete work of art. Every one of their songs. It's really incredible. I love it.
Yeah, his voices can just be like so sweet, you know what I mean? And so inviting and so like helpful. And then you have that cavalcade of music in the back that's like backing it up, right? And I think you're right.
Yep.
Like both of those two elements together make something that, you know, you can really rock out to, but it feels so like pure and like righteous at the same time.
Agreed.
Totally agree. Let's get back into it.
Yeah, especially this part coming up. It's so cool.
Yeah.
This is so dope.
Really great.
Yeah, like these tones are soundly in an era.
Yeah, I remember when Jocko joined the band, and it just added such another element to the sound, and it's incredible.
It's like a whole nother genre right now.
Latin guitar.
Little flamenco.
The castagnettes.
And maybe when you find it all again,
This is the most radio I think I've heard.
nothing stopping, not ever here or there.
Yes.
So sick. so sweet and like evil at the same time.
Right. It's really a journey, from where it started with those ripping guitar riffs and then to this, and then now they bring it back. It's incredible.
Yeah, this song is it. Right, like the stank face headbanging part. Huge.
Wow.
Sick. I love that song. My new favorite song of 2023.
It's great. Dude.
Love
This
it.
whole album.
2004.
You should check
Yeah,
out this
you
whole-
definitely have to listen to the whole album.
Oh,
Anchor Drops is an incredible
Man,
album.
His voice there at the end, it's killing me who it is. It just totally reminds me.
You'll think about it.
I'm going to think about it. I'll blur it out halfway through the show, probably.
Yeah, so that was a good one. I've been a fan of Umphrey's Mcgee for a long time. You literally have like so many of my favorite bands on your lineup. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
But it's great to be able to listen to that song, and I hope that they're going to be able to play that at the show. I'm sure that it would be a total rager if they dropped that.
It might be my favorite
Sure.
so far.
Yeah, they usually sneak that in at summer camp, at least at some point. They play, as a jam band, especially since they never play the same set, or the same songs.
Mhm.
They do 6 sets total over the weekend, sometimes 7. When we do a late night or a VIP or something like that. So, by the end they've played, what is it? Probably figure
50 hours.
somewhere 50. Yeah, it's an incredible amount of music. So, and the fact that they can fill all of that and keep it interesting and exciting and not be repeating anything, it's incredible.
I know exactly
Both
who
them
they
and Mo blow my mind every year with their ability to do that.
Nice. It reminded his voice during that last half of that song reminded me of a cross between a band called Pinback, if you've ever heard them. Rob Cross is the a vocalist for that, and also a band called Menthol.
Cool. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, and then Menthol,
Was they were from my hometown here in
Oh,
Champaign, right?
Yeah, I do believe so.
Yep.
Yeah. And it kind of had that same kind of sound to. It's almost like a dissonant way that they're singing over the top of something very kind of complicated and rhythmic.
Huh.
That was very cool.
Yeah. And one last remark I'll make about Umphrey's Mcgee is that I think that one of the biggest hallmarks of a great band is the legacy that you leave behind. And I've seen so many bands sprout up that sound like Umphrey's Mcgee, doing like the heavy improv, twin dueling guitar, prog jam thing, right? And there have been bands that I've been like, they're like, oh, like, what do you think about that band? And I'm like, oh, they're great, but like Umphrey's Mcgee's already a thing, like they're already doing that, and for a band to just kind of like make their own niche so much that other bands are trying to like replicate it, right? It's really, really telling to their legacy.
Absolutely, and especially since so many people want something that's for like you don't want to be too out there. You want to be familiar, so it's like, oh, this is something that I know and something I know I'm going to like, but then have just enough of a leveraging point so that you can create your own little niche, you can create your own little following, and get your notoriety. Which of course you do have a better shot with your jam band listeners in the sense that they're going to be much more forgiving for you being way out there. But yeah, it's harder to have your own voice and to have a uniquely distinctive voice and to build a following. And most people fail or just end up playing in the corner of a smoky bar somewhere.
Yeah,
and never get a following.
exactly. Yeah, they give jam band fans, feelings that the jam band fans don't get anywhere else, and they give metal fans feelings that they're not going to get from other metal bands. It's like, they give us the goods, especially with this great song.
Would you say that they have balls?
Yes,
Okay.
I would say that they're great.
I just had to make sure.
Even after 25 years, they're celebrating 25 years this year. It's incredible.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That's awesome. I mean, just getting like, we were in a band with 3 people, and just getting 3 people together was tough, so,
Right.
and all of them, so kudos to them. Hi, this is Mike with Galaxy Jams Reacts. We hope that you enjoyed that React video. Be sure to check out the links below of when we're going to be live streaming our next show and also how to watch full episodes. Please hit that subscribe button. Every single one helps.